Hello everybody and welcome back to You Can't Win. This is Tom here and I'm joined by Don as usual. Today we have a special guest here to talk about baseball and the COVID response that the MLB has had and all kinds of funny stuff like that that's been going on. I guess we'll be calling you Lex or what's the deal with your name right now?
So a lot of people know me from my first Twitter username, maybe Dude Slater. There was a big kerfuffle where I got banned with that. The deep state got involved. Very funny. So when I was liberated and a free man, kind of like Roger Stone, I came back under the new username Tanky_Viciato, which is also a baseball reference. We're going to be talking some baseball today. Diane Viciato is a player who was on my favorite team, the White Sox, and now he plays in Japan. And he's kind of revered there the same way that, maybe Stephon Marbury is in China with basketball. That's very cool. But that account got banned, and I came back as WhiteSoxLex. And then recently, I've got a new name. It's WhiteSoxLex. So that's why we'll be going by Lex today.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so I guess just to kick things off, let's sort of just lay out the basics on what has been going on with the MLB in relation to COVID and everything. I've been following it a little bit, but not probably as closely as you have. So maybe if you just want to summarize the situation for us.
So, baseball schedule, pitchers and catchers typically report around Valentine's Day, so February. And so that's around the time when America kind of knew that COVID was happening, but we didn't really have a handle on the situation until maybe the NBA shut down when Rudy Gobert tested positive. And so around that time, maybe MLB decides, all right, we've got to shut down spring training before we actually get to opening day. And they go on a hiatus for months trying to figure out how we're going to start things back up. And they finally start back up summer camps June, July, after a long labor ordeal where they're trying to figure out how much the players are going to get paid and how many games they're going to be playing and what the playoff situation is going to look like, how much money they're all going to make. And one of the things that really gets put on the back burner through all of this is like health and safety protocols.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, can you just imagine what those rooms were like where they were negotiating this stuff? I mean, this is really unprecedented. They don't really have, there's no normality to this where you can kind of just fall back on like, okay, well, this is how this sort of thing normally goes. And there's so much money at stake that I imagine everyone's just thinking about like, oh shit, we could lose a lot of money here. And that's the priority on both sides, players and the owners and everything. So yeah, that must have been really crazy.
One of the big shot agencies, Scott Boras, he was able to retain all of his staff and pay all them. And he said, well, we've had experience with what it's like when we can't like pay anyone because there isn't any baseball, because in like 94 and 95, there was labor stoppages. And this really isn't comparable to that, but you're right. That's like the experience they've had. And so what the MLB Players Association, what they came out with, the union for the players, they were saying like, we all want to play, tell us when and where to play. That was the message they put out, is we cannot wait to get back on the field. We're players, we want to play. And so, yeah, when that was the message put out, there wasn't really the idea that maybe there should be a hiatus until the COVID situation is under wraps.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you got these two, like if you kind of go a little bit far down the road with the MLB kind of thinking, you kind of go, okay, well, all these other industries are sort of semi-open already, and the other sports are trying to make a go of it a bit. And, this isn't necessarily way more dangerous potentially than, say, restaurants being open again or something like that kind of thing. Like they can kind of go that kind of, well, if we half-ass it a bit maybe, but, that's a bad thing. But, there's, at least theoretically, we could kind of, put something together here. But then you kind of stop and go, wait a minute, though. There's no like medical reason why this has to happen, right? There's no like baseball thing that if we don't have baseball for a year, then it's not the same as like having grocery stores open on the corner, and it's not the same as like education or something where at least theoretically you're losing a year of a kid's life or something for their math skills or something, So I think that's funny that like you got this. You can see how the money really focuses the mind here, kind of thing on for these people. They kind of go, okay, wait a minute though. It's like we got to do this somehow, and let's kind of just, push forward no matter what happens, kind of thing. So yeah.
I mean, that really is the bottom line, is that it's a non-essential service, and anyone looking at it objectively is like, well, why are we doing this? Why can't we wait until it's safe for everyone involved? Because when you see that a player is testing positive, maybe they've like caught or recovered from the virus. That's like that. What does recovered from it mean when you see that there's potential for long-term damage to like your lungs or whatever?
Yeah. For sure.
It would be pretty funny though, like if a whole team got it and they were just all on the disabled list like the whole season.
And
like,
that's kind of what's happening with Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. We're making, we're all cracking the jokes about it. Jair Bolsonaro's been drafted by Miami.
Yeah.
They've signed him off the international free agents list.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading some of the New York Times articles about this kind of stuff, and I guess they have their own Dr. Fauci of their own kind of thing, like Dr. Green or something, like the person that's supposed to be sort of organizing the response for the health and that. And he said that, they were asking about the Marlins situation and stuff, and he said, well, 29 out of 30 teams not having it isn't a bad batting average.
That's so funny. Oh my God. I had not heard that. That's great.
Yeah, it's yeah, because they did they said, well, we had 12,000 tests or something like that, or about 11,000 tests in the past week or so, and only 29 came back positive. And it's like, well, that's not how the virus works.
So they made it maybe like 3 or 4 days into the season before that Marlins outbreak happened.
Yeah.
But like they were already fucking up the response before that in really hilarious ways. And it really came down to the first game of the season, because right beforehand, the Nationals had this, 19, 21-year-old, superstar player, Juan Soto, coming off of a World Series win, testing positive for COVID in like practice the day before the game. And so the right thing to do is obviously to cancel the game, because there's no way you can test and trace before, first pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do they still play the game, Dr. Fauci is there to fuck up the first pitch and throw it like 6 feet.
Yeah, what happened there? That was the worst opening pitch I've ever seen.
I've seen one where it's like an employee winning employee of the month. They get to throw out the first pitch and they whiff so badly they hit a cameraman trying to catch it.
I mean, his form was just. I watched it a few times and I was just trying to figure out what is he? It's like he didn't.
He bounced it. He hit it 6 feet wide. Like he was going for the try hard move and he fucked it up.
Yeah. He kind of pushed it instead of threw it. Like it's sort of like you see kids or stereotypical girl throw kind of a thing where they don't really swing their arm back. He kind of just lobbed it like a shot put, and it's pretty funny. If you guys haven't seen it, you should go search it up.
Oh my God, that video is great. And when the news of that was coming out, concurrent news was that, and maybe he actually just invited himself upon seeing Dr. Fauci was doing the first pitch of the first game of the season, but Donald Trump was supposed to throw out the first pitch on the 15th of August with the Yankees.
Yeah.
And then and then it turns out they never invited him and he's backing out of it. And they're postponing it, and it's like that's such a cop out. Come on, we need
yeah. The form on it, yeah. Matt Christman was saying about how you just imagine the rippling on his body or whatever when he's doing it. Yeah.
We need to see that blubber go.
Yeah, I don't know.
And there was this image of him in the White House lawn, trying to catch a ball from a toddler or whatever.
Yeah.
He looked like one, and. Yeah, everything about those opening day festivities was wonderful, especially the underlying thing of we're playing through a COVID scare. And thankfully that was a false positive, but now you've got over 100 players who've definitely tested positive.
Wow, I didn't know it was that much. That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, around the league, It's been over 100 people.
Yeah.
And they've been traveling, they've not had a bubble situation. You can't have 3 or 4 or 5 baseball stadiums next to each other, apparently. I'm sure they could build it if they decided to wait a year and actually put in the infrastructure and resources into trying to make that setup happen. But they didn't do that. They were just we're going to try and play it. And we're going to say well, everyone's wearing masks. And we said that there's a 100 something page rule book that they have to follow.
Yeah.
And then it's like off the field, by the way, they're at their own discretion and they have to just exercise caution. And that's the page on that.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, like, the actual on the field stuff seems pretty like COVID friendly in a sense. Like,
oh, it's so relaxed too. Like, they're just letting players spit and like slap asses and high five and stuff, and not really enforcing on it. Because, like, what would you do?
Yeah. I mean, that's not what I mean, though. I'm talking about, like, baseball. It's set up in a way that if you're going to have a sport that's, like, corona friendly, baseball's pretty good for it. Like, the players are generally really spread out. You don't have people, like, breathing on each other and stuff. It's all open air, like, that's...
It's a funny, thing to think about, that the players are so spread out that it's like the automatically most socially distant sport. But then you think about it, they're all touching the same ball. And, even if they're wearing gloves or breathing on it, they're,
Yeah, I mean, the dugout, the locker rooms. I imagine just the traveling, you got, like, all these guys.
The dumbest thing they've done is they've kept doing the locker room meetings. Oh. And it's like, you don't have to be inside with, like, those locker rooms. You can be, like, somewhere else, anywhere else with better ventilation.
It would be great if some guys, like, superstition, baseball players are famously very superstitious. Like, if some of them went, like, coughed into everyone's mask or something, like that was his thing. Like, he did that once and hit a homer, so he's like, I gotta do this, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've got to cough into the mask. It's part of the tradition. No cough, no home run.
Yeah. And I guess, things like with the schedule, they're blowing out these games, right? Like, they just canceled or postponed, the Phillies Toronto weekend series. And, it's hard to, pretty quickly, you just can't make any of those up. I mean, they're going to, double up and stuff sometimes, but it's 60 games in about 2 months or so, right? So it's just for 3 months. They're going to have
to cancel it all at some point. Yeah. I think it's all just going to catch up on them the same way that it's going to sort of catch up on the rest of the country. But speaking of the Blue Jays, that's, I don't think, something we really talked about the start of the season was that Canada wouldn't let them play. So they were just sort of like the Kurds or like the Palestinians of the MLB, where they just don't have a leader anymore.
Sure. Yeah. And
they're a nation without a nation state.
Yeah. It was funny too, because they were like looking for places to play, right? And they said
they got kicked out of Pittsburgh, like the Palestinians getting kicked out of Jordan, sort of deal.
Yeah. They said that they were going through, apparently one of the managers or executives or something, when they were going through the list of people, like early, like, a bit midway through or something, with this whole trying to find a place to play, the guy said, look, worst case scenario, we'll go to Buffalo, which is not really the thing that you want to say about a city kind of thing. Like, that's not the...
That's so
well, it is Buffalo. I
mean, Buffalo seems like a perfectly nice place.
Yeah. So,
sure.
So I just, that's, you don't get the key to the city with that kind of talk, but yeah.
But that's where they are now, right? I think that's where they're playing from.
Yeah, they had to kind of walk that back a bit, I think. Yeah. And be like, no, it's a perfectly acceptable place to live or something. Yeah. So
we like it, actually.
So, because our AA team or AAA, whatever team is there. So I guess so. Yeah. Or AA. Yeah, and I was also thinking that, like, what do you think about this whole, it is, people are saying things like it's eerie or spooky, whatever, like the empty crowds and all that, like just not having anyone there. I watched a bit of it on TV and it didn't seem that bad, really. The like the having, it's just, but it doesn't feel like a high stakes game. It just feels like a lot of the time, like it just felt like almost like a spring training or something, because it's like but they're looking at things they're going to do to try to engage the viewer, I guess, because they're so they're thinking about things like they're doing the piping and the fake
crowd noise is funny.
Yeah.
I hate that. That's so stupid.
We love the clipping Fox 3D rendered fake fans.
Yeah, that's funny to me. That reminds me of they did, I don't remember if you remember, like, Fox Tracks, this is back in the day, I don't know, but like so in the mid 90s they did like this thing for NHL where they got, like, Fox got like a contract for the rights to hockey, and what they did is they said people don't want to watch hockey because they don't know where the puck is. So they made the puck glowing, and it made all these like different colors, and it was like, I don't know. Every single person in Canada thought it was the dumbest thing that ever happened, because we thought it was like one of those. It was like proof that Americans aren't smart enough to watch hockey or something. It was some like nationalist thing there, but I don't know. This kind of thing reminds me of that kind of thing of like they're gonna start to try to figure out ways how to like make it somehow more, pleasing to watch or something. So they're gonna have to have all these like gimmicky little things or something. So I don't know. But I mean, if it even goes on or whatever, because I could see them being like, no one's gonna watch if it just feels like a fake season or something. So yeah.
So I actually have experience with the empty stadium game with MLB, because like just the weirdest thing happened where they managed to schedule a White Sox game in Baltimore during the Freddie Gray protests. So yeah, they canceled, attendance for that game, and like you'd see fans outside of like the ballpark gates with the locks on it, like just trying to watch from the outside. And so this is kind of different from that, but also not really. You still see people like at the rooftops at Wrigleyville still trying to like steal like a glimpse of the game, even though they know they're locked out because of COVID shit.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I don't know, that's part of the evil of, I guess, the Ricketts family, is that they like purposely erected the scoreboards and advertisements in such a way to block out those views, and had like this long, they had protracted real estate fights with the people who own those buildings, who I'm sure also suck ass. But I'm never going to cheer for the Ricketts family.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
they're like the most evil people on earth. If you guys don't know about them, I think the guy who like really turned me on them was like Pete, because he's the governor of Nebraska here, and he had this huge thing where he like really fought hard to get like lethal injections done at the expense of the taxpayer. And I'm like, well, this is just petty and stupid and evil, and obviously the death penalty is like monstrous. So I don't know how many baseball owners can say like, I've willfully fought to murder people.
Yeah. Well,
George Bush, I guess.
Yeah.
George Bush for sure. Oh yeah. Classic. Go Rangers.
Yeah. Well, there's someone that could get it across the plate though, at least. So, at the first pitch.
I mean, one thing I'm thinking about is like the pitching rotation. It's really important for pitchers to have that very rigid like 5-day, 6-day sort of rotation where they pitch and then they have like 5 days, 4 or 5 days off. And if games are like kind of up in the air, like they get canceled here and there because of like COVID stuff, or they're like, that's gonna mess some people up. I mean, depending on how long this goes, I wouldn't be surprised if people are getting injured left and right. Pitching's already like a very injury prone sort of thing to be doing, and if it's just like, oh well, you got to pitch today, and not, oops, we thought you were going to pitch, but it's actually going to be tomorrow, like, you're going to be out of whack, and that's not good.
No, you're on point about that, and part of that is also the warm up, and like I said, they kind of had the protracted hiatus for like 4 months or whatever between 3-4 months between spring training and like the summer camp that they used as a preseason for this season. And so that preseason was not like normal for pitchers, and a lot of them, they're gonna fuck up their arms like trying to come into like a normal season from that, like just that alone. And then what you're also talking about, there's gonna be like just a lot of like bad pitchers that are gonna get a lot of time trying to eat innings because their whole staff has been depleted by a series of injuries and like COVID bugs.
Yeah. Do you think that people are going to even be able to perform at the? Because I mean, there is sort of a thing that I guess the message that they're trying to get out there is more, these are professionals, they train all the time, so there's a certain level of performance they're just going to perform at no matter what the situation is, because it's almost like muscle memory and all that to them. Do you think that's true at all, or is it just going to be, a clown show with the stats and all that this year?
It's it depends on the guy, really. Someone who's come out the gate really hot and who I've been waiting to watch play since they've signed him for my team is Luis Robert. Every time he hits the ball, it's coming off the bat at like 100 miles per hour, and it's like every time I see him swing, it's like watching Ken Griffey Jr. play again or something. Mm-hmm. The stats were eye-popping. He won minor league player of the year last year, and I think he's hit in every game so far this season. It's and they were trying to put something together with a rebuild. They were trying to follow that model that the Astros and Cubs did, and the Cubs dynasty kind of fell apart after one championship and an immediate playoff decline, and everyone found out the Astros were huge cheaters. I don't know if you guys want to talk about the Astros cheating scandal. That's another fun thing to talk about.
Sure.
Yeah, I have grown to really hate the Astros. They're in the same division as the Mariners, so not a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the thing about that is that they brought in all of these McKinsey guys, their general manager, their front office. It's all these smartest guys in the room, and so it's so funny that at the end of the day, the cheating scandal they come up with is that they were like banging trash cans to make sounds to indicate when there would be an off-speed pitch or something, and it's like, this is so rudimentary. This is the thing you guys came up with.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah. You would think that at this point they could come up with like, I don't know, CIA tech or something, like all the, like special drones or something, all that kind of stuff. But
drones flying behind the pitcher.
Well, yeah.
And basic cameras in like a trash can. And it's like, oh, okay, and so that's actually spilled over into this season where there was a Astros game, and a Dodgers pitcher threw at the head of one of the Astros players, and I think they were looking at suspending him 8 games, and everyone's outraged because it's a 60-game season, so 8 games is actually a lot this time this year.
Sure.
And also, no one has been punished in the Astros organization for what they've done.
Yeah, they just
that's amazing.
So they got a fine, right, or something, or
every player is basically like, well, what do you expect to happen? Like, if you're not going to dispense any kind of justice for that kind of obvious cheating that got exposed, then like we are going to take matters into our hands and throw at some of these guys.
So what's the logic of not punishing the players or the thing? Is it like that they don't have the evidence they think to hold up in like extended litigation or something, or or is it more like a cover your ass, move on kind of thing?
Yeah, it might be a cover your ass, move on kind of thing, because I think if they really investigated this and what was happening league wide, they'd have to punish more people than they were comfortable with or something.
I think that's the case.
Yeah.
I got to imagine a lot of teams are doing something like that, and to be honest, like I know it is cheating, but it's almost one of those things where it's like, it's not the same thing as like a spitball or like a corked bat or something. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's worse because it's systematic and the coaches are in on it, and there's like some like guy behind a computer who's fitting you video relays, and it's like,
the video relay stuff, but like, it's one of those things where I feel like if you can get away with it, it's kind of like good for you sort of a thing. But I understand that's not.
They do that opinion. With like there is that kind of flexibility with gamesmanship, and it's like it's very interesting when it's like Mike Fiers calling them out. When it's like when Mike Fiers was with the Astros, you'd see him with like a gallon of pine tar on his hat trying to throw that.
Right.
Yeah. But no, he was like one of the whistleblowers. One of the players on the White Sox was one of the whistleblowers, Danny Farquhar. And it was, interesting that like when he was playing them, that was one of the most like devastating things I've ever seen in a baseball game is like he gets, knocked around by them by a few batters and then leaves with like brain hemorrhage or something. And he's like lucky to be alive and shit. And it's like maybe the Astros hit him with the CIA gun.
Yeah.
He seems like a good dude, Farquhar. He used to be a Mariners player, and he just seems like a decent kind of like what baseball seems to have the kind of guys that are just like, small town dudes, and then they just kind of like baseball, and that's what they're into, and that that's their whole life.
Yeah, sometimes there are some nice players like that. Sometimes they're just like crazy reactionaries, and that's always fun, especially when you try and get onto Twitter and like try and go for clout, like. Kurt Schilling or Aubrey Huff. That's.
I don't think anyone beats John Rocker though. That's still kind of holding
John
the trophy.
Rocker's a classic. Yeah, we wish it was on Twitter more.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another guy I'm thinking of. Lenny Dykstra. He's good.
Oh, really?
Oh, I'm not familiar with him. I know Aubrey Huff. He's pretty funny.
Let me see what, like, he was trying to fight the Bagel Boss guy, Lenny Dykstra. They called him Nails. I want to see what his latest tweet is. Hold on. It's a blurry video. Is his pin tweet? It says something rotten the state of baseball, especially in Queens! ! Hashtag A-Rod is Mets owner. ... Seriously. At Aubrey Huff, at Kerflem, at New York Post, at Kurt Schlichter, at Crime in Sports. Oh,
I like the adding Aubrey Huff on top of all the news stuff.
Hashtag Let's Go Mets.
Yep.
Oh yeah, no, Lenny rules. He's being followed by the Brooklyn Juggler and Bob and just, yeah, that's another great baseball guy to follow. If you love what you're seeing from Aubrey Huff and Kurt Schilling.
Yeah, I kind of like always, when I was younger, I used to really like players like Nolan Ryan and Roger Clemens and stuff. And like later, Nolan Ryan isn't that bad, but like Roger Clemens turned out to be a pretty big douchebag and everything.
Oh, people found out Roger Clemens like groomed a 14-year-old or whatever.
Oh, like, I didn't even know about that. Oh my god. Wow.
No, that's no good.
When I was younger, I used to be a Nolan Ryan super fan. Like, I just thought that he was the best ever. And so I ended up buying getting, I guess, a kid, but like I would wear like Texas Rangers hats for years. And then I wore after, because of that, I got the Astros one because it had the red star and all that. And I always thought it was funny because I was like thinking back, I'm imagining as a kid being like a 10-year-old in the suburbs of Toronto wearing Texas Rangers hat everywhere and having never been to Texas, no connection to Texas whatsoever or whatever, and I don't know, and now I have to hate them obviously because they kind of cause trouble for Toronto sometimes. So yeah,
it's kind of funny you went from the red star to the red star, huh?
Yeah, that's why I bought it originally, because I thought that that was one of the reasons why. So I like the red star. I was like, well, that's vaguely
a great
socialist.
Twitter, display name for someone who wants to do that in the future. Communist Nolan Ryan.
Yeah. So
he wrote a really good book on pitching. I remember reading that, and that really that helped me a lot. I used to pitch when I was younger, and that really it's a very good, solid book.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I read that too. Yeah, it was neat. I don't know. Do you think any other sports are actually handling it, this whole COVID thing well? Like, or is there anyone that can get it right, whatever? I'm not sure, I don't know, NHL is doing this thing with the two hubs, whatever, the whole Toronto and Edmonton, they're just playing all the games there. I'm not sure. It's weird. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. So, yeah.
I feel like it's just a bad idea to have sports right now in general, just because it kind of normalizes everything. At the same time, it doesn't, because you don't see anyone in the stadiums or ballparks, and so you kind of realize there's still not really live entertainment. But at the same time, there is, and it's like, well, it's okay if I just go to work with my people. And it's like, no, you might still be getting sick there. Yeah.
Like for the NBA, they've got that whole Disney setup or whatever, and a campus or something. I'm not sure what's going on there. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, because you're dealing with a similar, probably for the NBA and all that, you're dealing with a similar or larger number of people overall, right? You've got to have at least 10,000, 20,000 people that are somehow involved, right? So, I don't know. It's just we'll see what happens, I guess. But yeah,
it's we're all just living one day at a time in Corona land here.
Yeah.
Just to play devil's advocate, I do think that I think it's good to provide some entertainment for people, and sports is a huge thing for a lot of people, so I do think that they could figure something out. It doesn't have to be the usual sorts of games. Maybe they just do a home run derby every week or something. You know what I mean?
It's part of why it's a bad idea for Major League Baseball to continue, is because it's diverting public resources away from dealing with it on a more national level. So one of their big testing facilities is like Rutgers University, which is a public research lab. So you'd think like that's taxpayer money that might be otherwise being spent helping the public.
I suppose, but I don't know if baseball is our first problem when it comes to like money being misused.
No, it's not.
But I hear your point.
Part of the problem is if we're like, we're spending all this time and energy testing like a player 4 times a week instead of like, a normal person once a month,
Yeah, for sure. And it all goes back to the point we were originally making about this being about money, and especially like the owner's money in particular, that they're going to be losing out on all kinds of, a whole year of baseball is a ton of money to just, lose. So yeah, I think it kind of comes down to that ultimately.
Well, and that's part of why you can't expect the players to quit, is because they have an even smaller earning potential for their lifetime. They've got, 10, 20 years where they can try and earn whatever living they can, and this is part of it. So if you shut down the season, that's a year of that earning potential out the window. And so that's why they have to have the season shut down. It can't be, we need everyone to opt out. You can't expect that to happen.
I'd be okay with the if they shut down the season and the government just like paid them, fulfilled the contracts as if they had played the full season and stuff. I know that it gets a little bit tricky because there's like variables.
The government should, whoever, but you'd see, because they did give the option to opt out to players, and so some players who had made like a career earning, in 9-figure, ballpark estimates, like those guys were like, I don't think it's safe and I'm going to opt out. And one of those guys was David Price, who said, well, now we're going to see how they're going to handle things. We're going to see if Manfred was full of shit when he said we're going to put player safety first, because it looks like he was full of shit.
Yep. So, yeah.
And that's why I'm sitting on my couch right now instead of, they're pitching for the Dodgers. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. We see what you were talking about, David. We like the socially, conscious pitchers in my circles. We like the Sean Doolittle, Lucas Giolito, Marcus Stroman. Those are some good guys to listen to. My favorite shortstop, Tim Anderson, won the battling title last season. He's been, speaking more vaguely about stuff. Something I saw that actually kind of concerned me that, the White Sox got in on, I'm sure a lot of people have gotten in on, is the Everytown stuff. That liberal gun control actually really scares me, because like I know who's behind it, and I'm like, well, they can't be up to anything good.
I actually don't. What is that? What's Everytown?
Oh, this was kind of a response to like Parkland and other such, school shootings. But the person responsible for backing this non-government organization is Michael Bloomberg. And so their ultimate solutions are going to be stuff like, we need to empower the FBI to arrest more minorities.
Yeah.
I don't think people really understand what they're asking for when they say, like, we need to do more FBI background checks and do more FBI tightening of regulations on gun trafficking and stuff. Because, like, if you actually look back at Everytown's old tweets, you'll find one where it's like saying, manual retweet of someone saying, "Thank you, Michael Bloomberg, tightening the regulations on the Mexican gun traffickers."
Yeah. You mentioned Marcus Stroman. He was great. I really liked him. Obviously he was.
That's another Twitter display name, Marxist Stroman.
Yeah. He's been good. He spoke out a lot in the last season he played for the Jays, but like in the last few weeks of it, because we had a situation where we had all these new young players and stuff, right? But like I think he said that like he was one of the most senior players on the team at one point, kind of thing, and he was like, that doesn't make sense, kind of thing. Like it doesn't make sense not to have any mature players around them to be able to like there's no older sort of workhorse players who can help out, teach
you the way you're supposed to act on this team. Yeah,
because that's the situation right now in Toronto, really, where we've got like all these exciting a few exciting young players who are all the sons of other players basically, and they're fun to watch and stuff, but it's like, yeah, it seems like you need a bit more than that to ride out a whole season or something. So we'll see.
Yeah, a lot of people deride that clubhouse leadership thing, but at the same time, they see that, like, with the White Sox, they've got Jose Abreu kind of doing that mentorship thing for Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez and Yoan Moncada. So, maybe there's a balance to be struck, because he is declining in the skills portion, but he's also obviously very valuable in that he's fulfilling that mentorship role. So that's interesting to think about always, is that balance. Yeah.
And, we had also talked about how, the more conservative players and stuff. I think that I always like this, Doug Stanhope has a whole bit about this where he's saying that, like, he doesn't like baseball because he feels like he's just watching cops on the field. Like that they're always like, they're just kind of standing there frowning. Like they're like, if you walk near them or something, they'd be like, move along, you're not supposed to be here or something, kind of thing, I don't know. So, and then,
it does. It depends on the guy. A lot of them, if they were not baseball players, would be cops. And it's always very fun to think about that.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to, any stories or anything like that about the MLB before?
I'm sure I could talk forever about it. I just, nothing's coming to mind right now.
Okay.
You guys know about Maglio Ordonez?
No.
So this was a guy who played with the White Sox when I was a kid. I met him when I was 12.
Oh, cool.
They had there was a dust up between him and Ozzie Guillen, where Ozzie Guillen was like mad at him for his politics and said, "Oh, he's just another like lousy Venezuelan or whatever." And it's like Ozzie himself is also Venezuelan, kind of funny. But and so now he is a mayor under the Maduro government.
What?
Wow. Yeah. So he is Mayor Maglio. He is a Marxist-Leninist, and he represents the people for us baseball fans, that are not cop fans also.
That's good. Yeah. Cool.
Oh, that's wild. He was great. He was really a solid player.
He hit a lot of home runs. Yeah, he was awesome. That was those early 2000s White Sox. They had Frank Thomas and Paul Konerko and Carlos Lee. So they had some power in the middle of the lineup, and then they went in 2005 without like any of them. Such a funny turn of events.
Yeah, that's wild. All right, so I guess it's time to get into some questions here. So we got one that seemed really pertinent for this episode in the Discord. So normally we would do Discord questions on the Patreon episodes, but we're going to go ahead and do this one here. So this is from Sav, and he says, David Roth used to do this thing called Remember Some Guys on Deadspin. Who were some of your favorite guys from the Jays, White Sox, and Mariners growing up? So Sav knows our favorite teams. That's cool. Who wants to start?
Sure. I'll start. My favorite guy lately was recently cut, kind of going, working for a spot with the San Francisco Giants right now, is Yolmer Sanchez. I did like a social media campaign to raise awareness for the fact that he should, and eventually he did win a Gold Glove Award. Crazy stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know. I remember some guys thing. I watched a lot of them. These are like, I remember the 90s because, like, obviously the Toronto Blue Jays won the World Series in 92 and 93. So, I don't know, like Joe Carter and all those guys were fun to watch. Roberto Alomar Jr. or whatever, and all the, but I also remember, like, I used to, for some reason, because I was watching, like, the Astros in the mid 90s or whatever, or in late 90s. I remember all the Killer Bees. Remember them? I don't know, like the Biggio and all that. I don't know. And so those are my, I remember some guys. I don't know.
No, those were the guys that we had to beat to win that World Series. And Clemens.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite team growing up was not the Mariners, actually. It was the Rangers. When I moved to Seattle, I sort of got back into baseball and decided, well, I've been out of the loop for a while, and now I'm in a city that has its own team, so I'll just start following this team and kind of cursed myself with Mariners fandom. But so growing up, the Rangers were like really bad pitching and really like solid power in the lineup. And I think it was a really fun time when they had like A-Rod for a while, and then it was like Palmeiro in cleanup and Pudge Rodriguez catching. I really liked Pudge a lot. So I would say him and that kind of 3-4-5 in that lineup is kind of my remember those guys. But then there's some of the like kind of more like the utility players that I sort of have like a fond remembrance of, like Rusty Greer was an outfielder.
You remember Scott Fletcher?
No, I don't.
George W. Bush actually named his dog Spotty Fletcher after Scott Fletcher.
Oh yeah? That doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, no, he was with the Rangers and the White Sox, so that's some guy to remember.
There's a guy, Gabe Kapler. You guys know him?
Oh, Gabe Kapler is he was on the Rays and he's been a manager now, and he's a funny guy to talk about because of his blog where he says that players should put their testicles under a UV light for health benefits.
Yeah, he got injured, I think. Like, he was a pretty solid, like, kind of five-tool kind of a guy, and then I think he got injured and retired early, and then got into this, like, weirdo, kind of like Rogan-y style health stuff. Yeah, like you said, he has a blog and everything.
Yeah, no, that's a funny guy. Absolutely. Should not still have a job managing baseball teams.
Well, it's weird because I think... some of the weird stuff that he talks about is, it's weird and it's probably ridiculous, but he also seemed to like be pretty serious about it, like for the most part. Like he was just kind of doing like proper sort of like fitness kind of stuff, and then it would just have these weird, I don't know what maybe he's gotten like way out there. I haven't really been paying attention, but
yeah, I don't know how much of he employs day to day, but I just don't trust him. I don't think he's a good guy. They should get rid of him. Whoever is like, I don't even know what team he's managing right now. I forgot. I think it's the Giants now with, I think he's with the Giants right now.
Okay, how about this one, Don? As a Ukrainian himself, how will Don prevent the next Ukrainian-Polish border war?
Yeah, I mean, this has come up in the news again lately, the whole Ukrainian nationalism kind of stuff, because I guess, they've been spray painting monuments with like, the Nazi war monuments, whatever, in Canada that say like, glory to Ukrainian division, whatever, of Waffen-SS. I don't know. I can't hate Poland. I don't know. I don't hate Poland. I'm from a part of like my ancestors are from Galicia, like the part of Ukraine which was Poland for like, in different ways, off and on for a long time. So I don't know. I feel like what I'll probably do is head it off by, I'd like to go there sometime. I'd like to go visit Poland and Ukraine and stuff and go there, and I don't know, maybe once COVID ends, I can get some incredible deals or something. So so that's what I'll do. I'll be like a peace ambassador. One of my goals in life is to become a peace ambassador kind of thing. I can get like UNESCO, like for tweets or something. I could become an artist for peace and just go there and wander around the villages and stuff and be like, I work for the UN as like a hero of sorts. So I think that's the idea.
Yeah, I think you would probably be able to successfully like troll both sides into hating you more than they would hate each other, and kind of like they hopefully would not bomb you or anything like that, but they would just be so focused on like all the whatever you'd be saying that they would forget about the war.
There's this theory that they had for a brief period where like a Polish political leader, whatever, had this like theory that they were going to unite all of the states basically between Germany and Russia, like, or like nations kind of thing, so that there would be this like big thing through the Balkans, through Poland and Ukraine and all of these like states. They were going to create like a super state out of that. And I like that idea, because then instead of being bullied by the other two sides, like the Germans and the Russians and stuff, get this cool like superstate there, and then you can use that as like a, then we won't be pushed around by these Germans and stuff. So I don't know. It's one of my lingering reasons why I hate the Germans, is because they've undermined that ideal.
All right. Next question here. Is it true that people who can whistle are gay? Let's see. Yeah, I think that is true.
Uh-oh.
Wait, you can't?
I can't whistle that well. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Sorry,
man.
I don't know.
Well,
Sucks for you.
we hate to have to tell you this, that you had to find out this way, but
Sure.
such is life. All right, let's move on here. Is there an N-word for socialists? I'm serious. So I think they're like a slur against socialists, that kind of a thing, or like a word that socialists can use, like as the N-word, kind of like my comrade, comrade, please, that kind of thing.
Tanky. I'm gonna say tanky.
Yeah, tanky.
Yeah, that's probably the closest one. Yeah.
Yeah. I consider
there's probably really good ones in other languages, like in like Russian or countries that like have like real history with like communist governments and stuff. They probably have all kinds of names for that kind of thing. All the ones we have are like pinko and that kind of stupid stuff that no one really takes very seriously.
Yeah, I know in Chinese they it's sort of related, is that there's like a term, something like tong hui or something, which is like or something like that, and it's like that's like the word for comrade, and it means gay guy now. so I don't know. It's like you can say comrade and people will it's context dependent, I guess, but yeah.
Right,
so,
that's pretty good.
Yep.
All right, so we got one here from our good friend, the white nationalist. He says, "Why should I not?" This is in all caps, by the way. "Why should I not be a white nationalist, you cucks? Why? Tell me why? Why?"
Well,
tell him, Lex.
I just want to imagine that he's like reciting that in the mirror while he's typing that, and maybe just like read that question aloud in the mirror a few times, and just keep going with it until you get into an answer. I think that's the way to go with it.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be a white nationalist until you can convince your mother that white nationalism is the way to go. If you can kind of get your mom on board, instead of sitting around and kind of like doing this on the computer all the time, like then we can talk about things.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it sounds like you're trying to convince yourself. I don't know. You don't go on Curious Cats for Queer Interfaith podcast unless you're trying to convince yourself that you're right. So maybe look into solutions like becoming a Muslim or a Catholic or something like that. So
yeah, and see if you can whistle.
Just look for Allah's light, really.
Yeah. See, solution. There we go. And then we'll get better questions, hopefully, from that person. So,
yeah. Okay, next one here is, why is it called Cheesecake Factory? I've always wondered this. A factory is not... I don't want to go to eat at something called a factory. You know what I mean? That doesn't seem like the best name for it, but I imagine that they came up with that name maybe way back in the day where that didn't have the kind of heavy, like, industrial sort of connotation or something.
I don't know what they were thinking. They could have named it a lot of things, and Cheesecake Factory was what they went with. Come on, like, I guess Baker Square was taken, but still.
Yeah, I think that maybe they like looked at the labor classifications of the federal government, and they saw that actually a lot of restaurants are considered factories because you're producing food, so it actually is regulated in some of the same ways that other things are. Like certain McDonald's jobs are considered industrial. So so I think that it's probably maybe it was used to be a state-owned enterprise or something in the Soviet Union or something, and then they they exported it. It became some like oligarchs thing, and then he exported it to United States and other places and made it like a Cheesecake Factory Collective number 4 or something. So yeah.
Under the new government, the Cheesecake Factory will be the deindustrialized cheesecake eatery.
Yeah.
I've never actually been to a Cheesecake Factory. Have you guys?
No.
I've been there a few times. It's really just not great.
Do they have like? Is it just like desserts and cheesecake and stuff, or what?
No. It's like a very mid-tier kind of American diner where you can get like a BLT or a salad and also cheesecake.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can't say that I've ever just thought like, you know what, I should go try Cheesecake Factory. It's never really seemed worth the time.
I grew up on that kind of food. Like that was like what if we went out for dinner or something, it would always be like like one of those places called something like McGillicuddy's or like Pizza Workhouse or something. Yeah. So yeah.
Pizza Workhouse.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good one.
All right, next one here is been seeing a lot of witchcraft on the timeline lately. Where is the Inquisition when you need them? JK, the Inquisitors in Spain were after heretics and considered the claims of witchcraft spacious at best. I think they mistyped here, meant specious at best.
Yeah.
No, they were spacious claims.
Yeah.
A lot of room in those claims.
I was reading a book that actually it was kind of funny because it was an academic book, but it was like trying to defend some of this stuff that happened. And they were saying that what would happen is that it was sort of, for a period of time, a lot of the witchcraft kind of things were, or magicians or whatever, like the healers and all that. A lot of it was considered like in the early modern period, they thought that like that was, it was the equivalent of like miracle cures kind of thing that we would say nowadays. It was like people being like, oh yeah, you could like drink this poison and you're like, your sickness will go away. So people in villages and stuff would get like extremely angry at these people if they started dying because they were selling poisons and stuff. So when they did like witchcraft trials and stuff, a lot of the times it was people like that like it was basically like consumer protection for that era, where they would be like, let's burn this guy because he says that like, that he says that you should eat this plant, and then we did, and 3 of us died or something. So I thought that was funny because it was like, it totally flips the script on that kind of thing. Like it says that like, oh no, the reason why they were doing it was because of this rational scientific reason, that they didn't really understand, but it was like to make things more in accordance with the principles of good medicine or something like that, instead of it being like the sort of classical online thing now where it's like, oh, the reason why any of this stuff happened was because they just wanted to figure out a new way to police women or something like that. So I think that's funny because it's like, yeah, I don't know. You kind of think to yourself like how that would be applied today or something, like the Inquisition. You're like, they go after someone that runs like an astrology app or something, or like go after someone that's like, oh yeah, we sell this homeopathy solution or something, and then some bishop shows up and is like, you're not, kind of thing or something. Yeah, I don't know.
I know my thing with the baby witches hexing the moon is I thought it'd be really funny to say like to a really round fat white guy like, baby witches hex you because they thought you were the moon.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah. I think it's pretty goofy. The whole like, I don't know where it started, but yeah, the whole thing of like young women kind of getting into this stuff is pretty silly. But I don't know if the Inquisition is something you need to bring back for that. Like they're gonna move on to something else in like 3 months.
Well, maybe what we could do is get groups of middle-aged men to roam the streets at night kind of thing and look for witches, and they could like be called something like a committee to enjoin virtue and forbid sin or something like that. So like they
it sounds good. I think Saudi has something like that.
Yeah.
Though they tend to go with like younger type of dudes.
Sure.
Can be part of some sort of Family Entertainment Protection Act.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I don't know if you're into these types of games, Lex, but this question says, is Civ 6 with or without DLC really better than 5? A lot of people seem to talk up 5 as the pinnacle of the series.
No, I do not know shit about the Civ games. I'm going to defer to you guys.
All right. I think they're both very good, and I would be willing to admit that 5 is more balanced and all that than 6, and maybe leads to like more. I think 6 kind of like you just steamroll and win pretty easily, and there's not a whole lot of mid-game strategy or anything like that. So yeah, I could see an argument for 5 on that basis, but I just know I have more fun playing Civ 6. And I would say you need the DLC. Without the DLC, I don't think you're really talking about the complete experience. So,
yeah, I mean, I played it for a bit, the 6 one. I haven't played 5 much, or maybe I did many years ago. Yeah, I mean, Civ 6, I was playing it for a bit, but then, and it's pretty fun. But yeah, my computer just starts like basically giving off smoke kind of thing. Like doesn't have a good graphics card. So, but one of the problems with it though, to me, not problems, but like just like I'm not gonna get involved in that kind of thing. It's like, there's of the like different factors or like dimensions of the game. There's like a religion factor. There's like a climate and weather factor. There's a culture factor. There's diplomacy. There's like there's so many different things that you kind of go through every turn or whatever, or like every and watching the military stuff, you've got like the trade routes and all that. So it's like there's like 20 different things you're supposed to kind of keep your eye on. And I think it's kind of fun to like click kind of thing, like go through it a bit and just see what happens. But I feel like there's probably like all this like metrics to it that I just don't know anything about and don't care to look into, where it's like, oh no, you're supposed to at this stage of the game emphasize this to emphasize that or whatever, and I will never learn at that level, just don't have the patience for it. So that's why I've been playing a lot of like Call of Duty. I've just been playing through all the old games because I never did before, and that is a lot easier for me to wrap my head around because it's just like chuck a grenade ever so often, shoot a guy, whatever. It's like my level of intelligence on that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I started to kind of like try to get good at Civ 6, and I found myself enjoying it less the more I got into like the number crunching, like trying to optimize my moves and figure out like what do I need to focus on in terms of all those various components of the game you were talking about.
Yeah.
And it just sort of sucked the fun out of it. And yeah, so I kind of gave up trying to shoot for like playing at the highest difficulty, and I just play on like King, which is just above the basic like default difficulty, and that's like good enough that it provides like enough of a challenge that I'm not just like automatically winning anytime I do anything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I can kind of I don't have to think about it too much, and I can just like listen to a podcast or whatever and play the game, and it's like a fine way to kind of like just kill some time or whatever. I actually recently got so there's another game that's very similar to these Civ games coming out, I think next year, called Humankind. It's being made by a French developer who's made a lot of really good games in this style before. They did Endless Legend and Endless Space and all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed those. I'm really looking forward to Humankind. And I got into their it's sort of like a beta sort of a program. Like they send you these very limited scenarios. So today I got the first one. You can play 30 turns of the game from the very start, and it's always like the same map. It's always kind of, it's very limited. It's just to kind of see what do you think about these different aspects of the game, and can you send some feedback, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's looking really good. I'm really looking forward to it.
That's cool.
There's like an interesting side to the way they're doing things where you develop your culture over time. So you don't just like pick one and that's who you are. You kind of pick one for each era, and based on what you're trying to do at that point of the game, you may want to go more towards science or more towards expansion or whatever. There's different kind of choices you have, and that will be reflected in the way that your civilization develops, like the look of it and all that kind of stuff. So it sounds kind of neat. Like I like the idea of it being more almost have this like RPG kind of like you can customize your civilization a little bit more than in Civ, where it's just like, okay, I picked the Ottomans, so I know I got to go for the artillery and just go for a domination game, or I picked Korea, so I'm going for a science game. You know, this humankind thing seems more like you craft your civilization in response to the way the game plays out, and that cool. Seems kind of cool.
Yeah, that sounds good. I also downloaded Europa Universalis 4, and it was funny because it seemed like even a stage further than Civ 6 on this kind of stuff, where I was.
Oh yeah.
I downloaded it, and then it does the same thing as Civ 6, where it's like my computer starts to heat up or whatever. But like the thing that I liked about it, it looked cool. I was like, okay, it was like a words kind of thing. Like it looked like it was like I had to read a few books of text to like even start the game kind of thing. And which is fine, but like when I loaded it, I was like tired at the time or something, and I was like looking at it, and it seemed kind of cool, but then I was like, I am not going to invest any time right now doing this kind of thing. Like it felt like a job or something. So I was like, I'm going to play this maybe another day or something. So I'm going to get back into it. But it's neat to like look at, like I want to play as like Russia or something in 1700s. I'm like, this is cool. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's funny because a lot of these games and stuff, I've only been playing games for about a year now. I mean, like really get back into it kind of thing. And I always think that like, man, people spend so much time on this. Like I feel like how much work it is to actually get good at a lot of these things. So yeah.
That's what I enjoy about it. I like just the process of learning how something works and being able to master it. I think the game itself is almost just an excuse to kind of figure out how to beat something or how to master something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lex, are you into any computer games or video games or anything?
I used to be like addicted to World of Warcraft when I was, 14, 18, that age range. And so I've kind of like just been like off it cold turkey since then.
Sure. Yeah.
And so yeah, not really. That's I just punted on that question totally.
Oh yeah, no worries. Just curious.
I don't know. Okay. You know what though? I do want to talk about my one gaming experience from back in the Warcraft days that was really like the zenith of the gaming experience.
Sure.
Was being in like the World of Warcraft forums, where one guy got so mad at me and like a few other people in like this one guild that he made an entire GeoCities website to call us all gay.
That's good.
It was like so long, this whole scroll down, there's like background music, there's like rainbows back in the, I think like if the page is still kind of up, it's a little shaky because it's very old. At the end there's like a disclaimer. Some of the names were not changed. The facts were more true than I actually said because I'm Leet and you're all pwned. It was very early aughts. It was so cool.
Yeah, that's pretty classic. We need that internet back, That's what I came from. That's what I'm here to do, and things are changing in a way I don't like.
No, we need to bring back posters like that guy whose name was Beyond Skill. We need more people like that.
Hey, that's good. Yeah, they banned David Duke today, which is sad. I don't know. We're losing all of our top posters. I don't know. So yeah.
R.I.P. to a real one.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this question here. Is Marxism and religion incompatible? I know James Connolly wrote on it arguing that it's not, and there were Iraq Shias who were communist, but it seems most other Marxists all accept atheism as part and parcel of its theory. Was hoping you could both speak on this. Thanks, and love the show. Well, I think we both share the opinion that they're not incompatible.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things where you kind of have to nail down what Marxism is, I guess. And if it's just like people should, if it's just something like the economy is moving towards a situation where things will be commonly owned probably in the future and planned and all that, if it's something like basic like that, if it's something more like it's a whole worldview and it's like includes stuff like how you, if it's like epistemology as well, like how you come up with the truth or something, and Marxist view is like scientific instead of adopting, if you buy into the whole 9 yards of dialectical materialism, maybe, and then there's also a different question like, should you be supporting organizations that are like openly atheist and like want to shut down churches and stuff if you're a socialist? I mean, if you're like a Christian left or something, or like a Muslim or something, like I think I think it's just one of those things where like anything else where it's just completely contextual. Like if I were, say, some Russian guy who was a member of the Orthodox Church or something, and the Nazis were invading, I would have no problem fighting against the Nazis or something like that. It's not like, I probably wouldn't really overthink that or something, right? But like, yeah, I don't know. I think that's one of the things where that's usually where you have to kind of figure out where it matters, right? Like, where does it actually matter? In terms of like in the United States or something, or Canada, looking for problems there or something, like looking for reasons why it's a contradiction or whatever, it's probably not as big a deal. I think it matters more maybe like when it's like people trying to chase out people from their movements. Like, there's this Catholic guy that made a book recently that's like Catholics can't be socialists, basically. And it was just like a complete joke book kind of thing, like just like, just total nonsense. But like that kind of thing gets a lot of play in the States because, it's obviously very well funded and there's a lot of MAGA Christians and all that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. Like, I don't think that it makes a lot of sense to be picking fights on that sort of thing. I mean, I don't really, in a place like the U.S. where that have like freedom of religion, and it's not really like there's no kind of like element of the government that has some sort of religious character to it, where like if you're trying to change the government towards a socialist sort of thing, that you're going to have problems with like religious institutions. I mean, if that happened in the US, I imagine that there would be pushback from like religious institutions, but it's not the same thing as like the Orthodox Church in Tsarist Russia. And I'm not even necessarily defending what happened in that case, but that's a very different situation than what we have today. So I think it's really strange to be picking fights on either side. Like if you're trying to like chase out socialists from your religious community, I think that's really stupid too, because I don't think like if socialists are already in your religious community, they're not going to try to like subvert the teachings or whatever. I mean, some people might have like really problematic ideas or whatever, but like that has nothing to do with the fact that they have like socialist politics necessarily. You can kind of debate them on the particulars that you have a problem with, and not need to make it about like, oh well, you're on the left, so therefore you can't be part of the religion or something. That seems really poisonous, and I really don't agree with that. But
yeah,
different places have different situations.
I don't think with either side you can really afford to be too picky with who you have representing you in the streets at any given moment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's really no problem, like just from specifically from an Islamic point of view. I don't think that there's necessarily a problem with thinking that like the state should represent workers' interests, and that there should be more kind of collective ownership and management and that kind of stuff. That really, I don't think there's a huge issue with that, and say like the Sharia and whatnot, because people like to sort of point out like, oh well, the Sharia has this, it doesn't talk about like appropriating wealth from the wealthy and all that kind of stuff, and that's true. So I'm not trying to say that that there is like some kind of crypto Marxist element inside of Islam or something, but I don't think it's the problem that people make it out to be, because just as there's no like socialist sort of thing in the Sharia, there's also no capitalist thing. So if we're going to accept like anything beyond like the if you're going to take those rulings out of their context of like medieval or even pre-medieval society and try to apply that to a modern situation, you're not going to find anything that really works. So and throughout history, people have always sort of adapted and sort of based things on the principles and figured out like, well, in our situation, things are a little bit different. We have to do this, we have to do that. So I don't think there's any more of a problem with that, doing that with socialism than there is with like capitalism or any other sort of system. So yeah, just for in particular with Islam, I don't think there's any problem there either.
Sure. I think that there's probably is a problem, a much more stark problem, I think, in Catholicism when you're talking about like specific political movements or something like that. Like it's harder to say like that you should be, say, a member of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union or something, right? Like at the time, and be an active Catholic or something. And it comes up with things like, should priests in, say, socialist Poland, work with the government on their like registering priests program or something, like it's in situations like that, it becomes much more like, people force conflict at certain points, and it's not necessarily, I mean, it's bad. It's bad, but it's like, it's just it's like a real political problem. Like people have different worldviews and they clash, and you can't always paper over that. And I think that's kind of like the thing, like where, there are certain things in the religion where this kind of like central planning, dispossessing certain people or whatever to make other things work. But it's funny because that kind of thing is off the table really in the religion. But it's also kind of funny because there's like quotes from Benedict XVI, like, obviously not a radical left kind of guy, who will say things like the closest social movements or whatever kind of thing, the closest to Catholicism or very close to Catholicism would be the democratic socialist movements or something like that. Like he said that, like, and it's unexpected to see that kind of thing, but it's like anything that's not like that's kind of specific kind of movement, which was very actively trying to shut down churches and stuff. Which is, and even then it's funny because I have a few books about this kind of stuff where there were a lot of people who did join communist movements or allied sort of with them, because of those other greater problems kind of thing, right? Like they said, okay, we understand that this movement is trying to shut down the churches, but say we need to fight against the Vichy government or something like that kind of thing. So those kind of people exist because, human diversity, whatever, like there's a lot of diversity within political movements and stuff. And just because, there's always people that kind of surprise you with their beliefs kind of thing. So, yeah.
I mean, the way I kind of think about it, because it is kind of something that you might see as irresolvable with Marxist critique of, religion as an opiate of the masses. But, we're now in the year 2020, and it's a very different time and a very, eventually you have to work with what you have. And so you kind of think, well, how different is America from, its conceptual founding? And, how do we have socially liberal values today that people feel are in line with what the founding fathers would have wanted somehow? And the answer is that people just kind of have to see what they want to see and kind of work with what they have.
Yeah.
Like if you can try, you can't like legislate all of the religious people out of a broader left coalition. I don't think that would be successful.
Right. And what are you trying to accomplish by doing that? That to me is like the big problem. Like what is the point of doing that? How is that helping accomplish the goals that ostensibly you're trying to, like, is that gonna, does it, not to sound like Hillary Clinton, but does that solve, wealth inequality? Does that like fix any of the social problems we have? Like, what is the point of doing something like that? And again, the same goes for the other side. Like if a religious community is trying to police people in their community and make sure that there's no leftists or something, like who's that helping? Why don't you engage in like dialogue and try to figure out a thing that's like best for the community and for the broader, the community in the sense of the whole country or something, instead of like making sure people agree with you more than they disagree with you or something. Like it's very strange.
No, I have actually a protege who's very Christian left, and he's started a new Twitter account recently. I kind of want to plug that for him.
Go for it. Yeah.
I forget what what the ad is, but the general concept is that it's screenshots of people announcing that they are done with sports, that the social justice warriors have taken sports away from them and they cannot watch it anymore.
Because of Black Lives Matter and Kaepernick and all that kind of stuff, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And I saw the 3 players on my team kneel during the national anthem. I've been a fan for 40 years, but I am done today, sirs.
Yeah. What's the account at? What's the
Oh, so it's done_watching.
Okay,
Cool.
so like DONE watching.
Done, yeah, _watching. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So done watching sports, and we got a screenshot here of Charlie Kirk. It says, hilarious to see black NBA players who make millions a year take a knee to try and tell us black people can't succeed in America. Kick them out of the league. Done watching the NBA.
He really goes for it there. Yeah, that's not he's not holding back on that one. That's wow.
Yeah, if only George Floyd had just gone into the NBA like all these other black guys.
Yeah.
Okay, next one
Smart
is
guy.
from I guess the Blackhawks, the Chicago hockey team. It says, moving forward, headdresses will be prohibited for fans entering Blackhawks sanctioned events or the United Center when Blackhawks home games resume. Well, this is kind of weird. I know this is trying to be progressive.
There's a follow up.
Oh, I know. I'll get to that in a second. But what I mean is, they're trying to make sure people don't come in and do like the whole cultural appropriation and wear like offensive headgear and stuff. But doesn't this also sort of prohibit like actual Native Americans from entering wearing their own thing?
Well, yeah.
I don't know if they thought that through.
It's a ceremonial thing, so I don't think you wear it like hanging out or whatever. So yeah,
it's very funny if someone actually showed up wearing the headdress and it's like, no, it's okay. I'm one of the.
Yeah.
They hadn't been in town for like. They just live on a farm or something. They hadn't been in town for like 20 years. So they're like, what do you mean? What is cultural appropriation or something? Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a second screenshot on that. It's someone replying to that tweet. It says, as a lifelong fan, I will not be coming back to the United Center nor watch another game. This is becoming outrageous. Anything you do is offensive in 2020. So there you go. That's one of these like Indian chiefs, obviously, who's upset about this.
Yeah. Oh, they're all so great.
All right, Lex. Do you want to just briefly plug your Awful Pundits tournament real quick?
Yeah, let's go to that. So the project on Patreon, Awful Pundit Tournament, at Awful Pundits on Twitter. And right now we're doing the Putrid Pundit Invitational for the first time ever with Patreon exclusive $1 for vote only tier, $5 gets you the Big Dave baseball card and input on exhibition games and regular season flash games when the second ever regular season starts up after the big bracket.
Did you say Big Dave baseball card?
I said Big Dave baseball card.
Wow, that sounds cool. I'll check that out.
It looks cool. Yeah, it does look good. Yeah.
So with the Putrid Pundit Invitational going on right now, the games we put up right now feature Sadie Doyle versus Moira Donegan, Malcolm Nance versus Virginia Heffernan, Joe Scarborough versus Hugh Hewitt, and Connor Friedersdorf versus Sam Harris.
Nice.
And going up next week, we are going to have Benny Johnson versus Jamie Kirchick. We're going to have Zerlina Maxwell. We're going to have Thomas Friedman. We're going to have Charlotte Clymer versus Thomas Sewell. So, these are the games you want to vote in.
Yeah, some all-stars there. That's pretty good.
And this is like the NIT, and so this is exclusive for Patreon voters, but it's going to have to be access to everyone on Twitter for the big bracket to decide the eventual champion. Sure. 2018 we had Ben Shapiro win. 2019 he repeated, and in 2020 Jennifer Rubin took the title.
Oh yeah, she's been a good a rising star. So. Yeah,
I think she hit her real peak with the Bloomberg reply tweet.
The spaghetti thing?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And she's still just dumb as a sack of bricks, but I don't know if she has what it takes to repeat like Ben Shapiro. There are so many hungry people out there right now. Barry Weiss, Megan McArdle. They're all just equally stupid and just equally hungry for that championship.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're fighting the good fight here. I can't pay attention to any of this stuff. It's just too toxic for my brain. But someone's got to do it, I guess.
Yeah. It's really a public service, but if you want to, vote in the invitational tournaments or get your Big Dave baseball card, it's supporting me for the work I put in maintaining the spreadsheets and letting people know who's number one on top of the hit list if you want to go that route. Parody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. I don't know. That was fun going through the horrific disease-ridden baseball season that we are looking forward to. So yeah.
While we were recording, my White Sox won 2-0 for Dallas Keuchel.
Nice.
Hey, congrats.
I'm wooting.
Yeah, so we'll just have to see what happens with all this kind of stuff. It'll be interesting, that's for sure. So thanks for listening, guys. If you like this episode and you'd like a second episode every week, you can subscribe to our Patreon and you will get access to that, as well as access to our Discord where you can chat with us in our community. Please remember, we have a Curious Cat where you can send in questions anonymously and we'll be answering them on the show. So thanks for listening and we'll catch you next week.